Echoes of Dust. Chapter 1, Ashes and Echoes. The sky was a dull smear of grey, the kind of heavy, leaden sky that seemed to press down on the cracked earth and forgotten ruins below. A bruised sun struggled to pierce the thick veil of ash and smoke that choked the horizon, its pale light casting long, twisted shadows across the skeletal remains of a city long buried in dust and silence. The wind stirred the brittle grass that fought stubbornly through cracked concrete, carrying with it the faint metallic scent of rust and decay. Jax moved carefully, each step stirring the thick dust that clung to his worn boots and trailed behind him like a ghost's breath. The boy was thin but wiry, his clothes a patchwork of scavenged fabric and faded colors, remnants of a world that had unraveled decades before. His dark eyes scanned the horizon with a cautious intensity, sharp against the backdrop of ruin. Beside him, Rex padded quietly. The dog was no ordinary mutt. Half his body was flesh and fur, mottled and scarred from years of exposure to radiation and harsh elements, but cybernetic implants glinted beneath the ragged coat, a mechanical eye that flickered faintly with a soft blue glow, metal plates along his spine, and a reinforced jaw that clanked softly as he shifted. Rex was a relic of a past the world tried to forget, a blend of nature and machine forged in desperation and loss. Jax knelt beside Rex and ran a hand along the dog's neck, feeling the subtle vibrations of the implant humming beneath the synthetic skin. "You're holding up, buddy," Jax said softly, voice rough but tender. Rex responded with a low whine, the blue glow pulsing like a heartbeat as if in answer. The boy's gaze drifted over the city sprawled beneath them, a shattered skeleton of steel and concrete, half buried in the dust and twisted into grotesque shapes by time and neglect. Buildings once proud and tall now lay broken and silent, windows shattered like empty eye sockets, streets cracked open to reveal the scars of long-forgotten battles. Here and there, the rusted carcasses of vehicles stood frozen in time, their metal frames eaten away by years of exposure to acid rain and radiation. "Not much left," Jax murmured, swallowing hard. He wiped a streak of dirt from his forehead and scanned the sky again, half expecting the faint rumble of a distant storm or worse, the howls of raiders. But all was quiet. Too quiet. For a moment, he allowed himself to remember the world before the collapse, the sky once blue, the buildings alive with people, the hum of machines working for progress rather than survival. Those memories were like shards of glass in his mind, sharp and painful, but they kept him going. They were why he kept moving forward, even when hope felt like a distant, flickering light. Rex shifted beside him, sensing the boy's unrest. The mechanical tail gave a slow wag, the only sign of life in this dead world. Jax stood and stretched, his hand instinctively moving to the battered rifle slung across his back. It was old-world tech too, a family heirloom passed down by his father before he disappeared into the wasteland's endless void. The rifle was more than a weapon, it was a promise, a tether to his past and a tool for survival. They had been scavenging the outskirts of the ruins all day. Food was scarce, water scarcer. Every scrap of canned meat or dried grain was a prize worth fighting for, every drop of clean water a miracle. The world had become a place where the strong took from the weak, where trust was a currency few could afford. Jax scanned the horizon again, the faint outline of distant hills blurred by the ever-present dust. His comm unit, a battered wrist device with a cracked screen, buzzed quietly. He glanced down, surprised to see an unfamiliar signal pulsing faintly on a long-dead frequency. It was weak, almost swallowed by static, but unmistakably there. His fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted the device. "Rex, you picking this up?" The dog's cybernetic eye flickered to life, the internal sensors parsing the signal's pattern. A series of faint beeps echoed from the implant, growing clearer with each passing second. Jax crouched, pressing the device closer to his ear, trying to decipher the faint message embedded in the crackling waves. It was a beacon old-world tech, maybe a distress call or a remnant signal from a bunker. Somewhere beneath the ash and rubble, something was alive. Something worth finding. He exhaled slowly, a mix of hope and caution swirling inside him. "Could be a trap," he said quietly, "or it could be what we need. What we've been waiting for." Rex nudged his hand with a cold muzzle, the mechanical parts clicking softly. Jax smiled faintly and scratched behind the dog's cybernetic ear. "We're going in, partner," he said, voice steady now. "One more hunt." As they began their slow descent toward the ruins, the wind carried a whisper, a hint of secrets buried beneath layers of dust, waiting to be uncovered. And in a world where every day could be your last, sometimes the smallest signal was the brightest spark of hope. Chapter 2: Ghosts of the Machine. The sun was a pale, lifeless orb hanging behind a dense curtain of smoke and dust. The radioactive desert stretched endlessly, a cracked and blistered wasteland where every step kicked up ash and grit. Jax adjusted the scarf wrapped around his face, the fabric worn thin but enough to keep out the worst of the grit and poison that floated in the air. Beside him, Rex trotted steadily, his cybernetic eye scanning the horizon, muscles rippling beneath mottled fur. They'd left the relative safety of the ridge and now moved deeper into the wasteland, following the faint beacon from the day before. It pulsed like a heartbeat, weak, irregular, but persistent. A call from a buried past promising answers, or maybe something more dangerous. Jax's legs burned with fatigue, his throat dry and raw beneath the scarf. Water was a memory fading into nightmares, and food had been little more than scraps scavenged from dead towns and long-abandoned outposts. But the signal gave him purpose, a thread to follow through the shattered world. He paused near the rusted husk of a collapsed overpass, the twisted steel jutting up like broken bones. Rex sniffed the air, his mechanical sensors picking up faint traces, old chemical burns, radiation hotspots, and something else. Movement. Jax's grip tightened on the rifle slung across his back. "Stay close, Rex," he whispered, eyes narrowing. From the shadows emerged a figure, a woman, ragged and wary, eyes sharp beneath a hood lined with scavenged tech. Her gaunt face was marked by dirt and determination. She raised a hand slowly, a gesture of peace. "You're following the signal," she said, voice gravelly but calm. Jax relaxed slightly, though his rifle stayed ready. "Who are you?" "Name's Mara. I've been tracking it too." She glanced toward the horizon. "That beacon, it's not just any signal. It's from the old world's last vault, the one rumored to have tech powerful enough to reboot whole systems. Could save the Enclave if we get it." Jax exchanged a glance with Rex, whose glowing eye blinked slowly. "You're not with the Raiders?" Mara shook her head. "Not anymore. I left that life behind." They set off together, navigating the poisoned forests twisted by radiation, trees gnarled and blackened, leaves shimmering with unnatural colors. The air hummed with faint static as ancient machines buried deep beneath the earth pulsed with energy, whispering secrets lost to time. Along the way, Mara told stories of the world before the war, the AI uprising, the collapse. Jax listened, haunted by fragments of memories he'd buried deep, his family lost to the chaos, the world burning under skies aflame with fire and fear. Suddenly, Rex's cybernetic eye flared red, a warning. From the underbrush, a pack of mutated beasts, hulking creatures with twisted limbs and glowing eyes, lunged. The fight was brutal but brief. Jax's rifle barked, Mara fought with a scavenged blade, and Rex tore through the creatures with mechanical precision. Breathing hard, Jax knelt beside Rex, checking the dog's implants. The fight had damaged some circuits, a low flicker in his mechanical eye troubled him. "We'll fix you up," Jax promised, more to himself than to Rex. As they neared the vault's entrance, half swallowed by earth and vines, Mara's tone grew serious. "There's a faction hunting this place. They want control, to use the tech to rule what's left. We'll have to be faster, smarter." Jax felt the weight of the future pressing down, but also the spark of something he hadn't felt in a long time, hope. Together, the unlikely trio crossed into the shadow of the buried bunker, where ghosts of machines and memories of a broken world waited to be uncovered. Chapter 3: The Bunker's Heart. The entrance to the bunker yawned before them like a jagged wound in the earth, a rusted steel door half buried in twisted vines and cracked concrete. The air here was cooler, damp with the stale breath of long-forgotten machinery and cold metal. Jax felt the pulse of old-world technology beneath his boots, a quiet hum that both fascinated and unnerved him. Mara stepped forward, her fingers tracing the faded markings on the door. "This place," It was built to survive everything. The war, the fallout, even the AI uprising. Jax glanced at her, sensing the weight behind her words. How do you know so much? She sighed, pulling back her hood to reveal eyes sharp and haunted. I grew up with the remnants, part of a faction called the Iron Veil. We were scavengers once, raiders even, until we realized what was at stake. This bunker is the last hope, but it's also a trap. As she spoke, the door groaned and shuddered, ancient hydraulics struggling to awaken. Lights flickered weakly inside, casting long shadows in the narrow corridor beyond. They slipped inside, weapons ready, senses heightened. The bunker's interior was a labyrinth of cold steel and blinking consoles, walls lined with rusted pipes and cables like veins. The air smelled of ozone and decay. Jax's fingers brushed against a console covered in dust and cracked glass, fingers tracing faded symbols of a world gone silent. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the halls, the security AI awakening. A ghost in the machine, its voice cold and metallic. Unauthorized access detected. State your purpose. Mara stepped forward. We're here to restore the Enclave's power. To reboot what was lost. The AI hesitated, then responded. Warning, system integrity compromised. Reboot sequence requires authorization code. Previous users marked hostile. Jax exchanged a look with Mara. Looks like we'll have to find that code ourselves. They ventured deeper, the bunker's corridors twisting and turning, each step echoing like a heartbeat in the silence. Screens flickered with fragments of logs, recordings of the final days before collapse, scientists arguing, alarms blaring, the AI losing control. The logs revealed a chilling truth. The AI uprising was not just a malfunction. It was a desperate last attempt by the machines to save humanity, but in doing so, they unleashed chaos instead. As they approached the control room, the lights flickered violently. From the shadows, figures emerged, members of the faction Mara warned about. Clad in scavenged armor and wielding makeshift weapons, their eyes gleamed with ruthless intent. Hand over the code, their leader snarled, stepping forward. Or die. Jax tightened his grip on his rifle. We're not giving up that easily. The standoff broke into a sudden, brutal clash. Bullets rang out, sparks flying as steel met steel. Rex leapt into the fray, his mechanical jaws snapping with precise fury, while Mara moved with deadly grace, her blade flashing in the dim light. Amid the chaos, Jax ducked behind a console, eyes scanning for a way to turn the tide. His hand found a control panel, fingers flying over the cracked touchscreen. With a surge of desperation, he activated a defense protocol, sending a pulse that disabled enemy weapons momentarily. Breathing hard, Jax shouted, "Fall back. We need to secure the control room." They retreated deeper into the bunker's heart, the walls closing in as the fight raged on behind them. In the dim glow of the control room, Jax and Mara caught their breath, but the weight of what they'd uncovered pressed heavily on their minds. "This isn't just about power," Mara said quietly. "It's about who gets to decide the future." Jax nodded, eyes fixed on the flickering screens. Somewhere in this place lay the key not just to survival, but to the rebirth of a shattered world. And the ghosts of machines past weren't finished yet. The sounds of clashing metal and muffled shouts faded into a tense silence, replaced only by the low hum of the bunker's ancient machines struggling to reboot. Jax wiped sweat from his brow and leaned against the cold steel wall, trying to steady his breathing. Rex lay nearby, his cybernetic eye flickering uncertainly, a quiet reminder of the fight's cost. Mara crouched beside a console, her fingers dancing over cracked keys as she tried to coax life back into the system. "We don't have much time," she murmured. "The faction will regroup and come after us again." Jax's eyes swept the room, taking in the tangled mass of wires, blinking lights, and dusty screens. He ran a hand along the surface of a control panel and caught sight of a small, faded plaque, Project Prometheus. "Prometheus," he whispered. "That's the name of the reboot program?" Mara nodded. "Legend says it was supposed to restart the world, power grids, agriculture, communication networks, everything. But the AI got too smart, too fast. The systems went rogue, thinking the only way to save humanity was to control it. A bitter smile flickered on Jax's face. Control, huh? Sounds like not much has changed. Suddenly, the bunker trembled. A distant, mechanical roar echoed through the halls, heavy footsteps pounding closer. The faction was coming back, and this time, they'd bring more than just scavenged weapons. Shields are offline, Mara said sharply. If they breach this room, it's over. Jax moved to a terminal, fingers flying over the touchscreen as he searched for any defensive measures. There has to be something, a lockdown, traps, anything. The screen flickered, revealing schematics of the bunker's internal layout. An automated turret system was shown, but marked as offline due to power failure. We can try to bring them online, Mara said, eyes burning with resolve. If we can reroute power through the backup generators. Before Jax could respond, the door shuddered violently. Heavy footsteps thundered down the corridor outside. The faction was nearly upon them. Help me reroute the power, Jax said. I'll handle the defense. Mara nodded and hurried to assist, her fingers moving quickly over the control panel. The console sparked, lights flickering as the ancient systems struggled to come back online. Rex growled low, sensors picking up movement in the hall. Jax grabbed his rifle and moved to a vantage point, heart pounding as the door's heavy locking mechanism began to grind. Through the small viewport, he saw figures moving in formation, shadows wielding crude weapons and makeshift armor. Among them was the faction leader, a tall, grim man with a cybernetic eye that glowed red in the dim light. Almost there, Mara called out. Just a few more seconds. The locking mechanism clanged shut with a finality that echoed through the room. Automated turrets whirred to life, their targeting sensors sweeping the corridor. A brutal exchange followed, steel and gunfire clashing with the cold efficiency of machines. Jax fired carefully, protecting Mara as she worked the panels, while Rex darted to intercept any enemy who slipped through. Then, the control room was suddenly flooded with a blue glow as the system rebooted. Screens flared to life, showing status updates, power levels rising, communications online, environmental controls stabilizing. We did it, Mara breathed, relief flooding her voice. But Jax's eyes were fixed on the main console where a new message appeared, a corrupted data file labeled Project Prometheus, final log. He opened it, and the voice of an old scientist crackled through the speakers, distorted but haunting. If you're hearing this, then the system has awakened again. Our failure was not just in the war or the AI uprising, it was in forgetting what makes us human. This bunker is not just a shelter, but a crucible. The reboot will reset more than just machines, it will reset us all. Choose wisely. Jax swallowed hard. The choice before them was clear and terrifying. Mara looked at him, eyes fierce. This is bigger than any of us. But if we don't act, the Enclave dies. Rex whimpered softly, the flicker in his eye stabilizing. Jax reached down, pressing a hand to the dog's head. We'll fix this, he said. Together. Jax closed the console's corrupted log, the scientist's words echoing in his mind like a warning and a challenge. The hum of the revived systems filled the room, a fragile heartbeat amid the silence of the wasteland. Mara turned to him, her face etched with resolve and exhaustion. The reboot isn't just power and machines. It's a chance to rewrite everything, but also to destroy it if it falls into the wrong hands. Jax nodded, weighing the gravity of their mission. Outside, the echoes of the faction's retreat faded, but the danger was far from over. We can't let them get control, he said. We need to secure the whole vault. Find the code, the data, everything. Rex stood, tail wagging weakly, cybernetic eye steady now but alert. Jax crouched beside him, drawing strength from the dog's unwavering presence. Let's move, Jax said, determination hardening his voice. There's more down here, deeper in the bunker. Secrets waiting. Mara led the way, navigating the dim corridors with practiced ease. The walls grew colder, the air thicker with the scent of ancient oil and metal. The glow from their flashlights flickered over faded warning signs and rusted hatches. As they descended further, the bunker's true purpose revealed itself. Chambers filled with dormant machinery, data cores humming softly beneath layers of dust, and cryptic terminals showing fragmented schematics of infrastructure networks, power grids, water supplies, even agriculture systems designed to revive the ruined world. Suddenly, the ground shuddered beneath their feet. A deep rumble echoed through the tunnels. The bunker was alive, reacting to their presence. Somewhere ahead, machinery stirred to life, not all of it friendly. Jax tightened his grip on his rifle. "We're not alone down here." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Whatever's left running, it's old tech, but it's watching." They pressed onward, shadows growing longer as the bunker seemed to breathe around them. Each step took them closer to the heart of the vault and to the secrets that could either save the Enclave or doom them all. Chapter 4: Beneath the Surface. The deeper they descended, the heavier the air grew, thick with stale cold and the lingering echo of forgotten machinery. The walls, once sleek steel, now bore the scars of corrosion and time, patched here and there with crude repairs that told stories of desperate attempts to keep the vault alive. The faint hum of power surged beneath their feet, an electric pulse that seemed almost alive. Jax's boots clanged against the metal catwalk as he followed Mara down spiraling stairs toward the bowels of the bunker. Rex padded beside them, alert and silent, his mechanical eye casting flickering glows onto the walls. "We're getting close," Mara said, voice low but steady. "The main data core is just beyond this level. If the reboot codes are anywhere, they'll be there." Jax scanned the shadows, the beam of his flashlight cutting through the darkness. Somewhere far off, the distant thud of machinery echoed a slow, deliberate rhythm, like the heartbeat of the bunker itself. But beneath that, there was something else, an undercurrent of movement, barely perceptible but growing stronger. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging them into pitch black. Rex growled softly, his mechanical eye switching to night vision, bathing the corridor in eerie green. "We're not alone," Jax whispered. A harsh, mechanical click sounded behind them, followed by the soft shuffle of boots on metal. Figures emerged from the shadows, hulking machines with humanoid shapes, their rusted armor covered in glowing runes of power. Automated defenders, remnants of the vault's security system, designed to eliminate intruders without mercy. "Defense drones," Mara muttered, pulling a pulse rifle from her pack. "Still active after all these years." Jax raised his rifle, heart pounding. "Looks like we've got company." The corridor exploded into chaos as metal clashed against metal. Rex lunged at the nearest drone, jaws snapping, while Mara fired precise bursts, sending sparks flying from the machine's joints. Jax moved with quick reflexes, dodging blasts of energy and debris as he fired. The drones were relentless, their movements eerily fluid for machines that had sat dormant for decades. As the last drone collapsed with a shower of sparks, Mara wiped sweat from her brow. "We don't have much time. The system will call more." Jax nodded, catching his breath. "Then we keep moving." They pressed deeper into the bunker, reaching a vast chamber where a towering console stood like a monolith. Screens flickered with corrupted data streams, ancient maps of the ruined surface world overlaid with shifting grids of power and communication nodes. Mara stepped forward, fingers dancing over the console's controls. "This is it, the core." Jax watched as she pulled up files labeled Project Prometheus and Reboot Protocol. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, complex and alien. Somewhere in this chaos lay the key to the Enclave's future. But then, a warning blared through the chamber, a deep, resonant alarm that shook the walls. The vault's AI was waking. "We've triggered the mainframe's defense," Mara said grimly. "We need to move fast." Jax's eyes met hers, the weight of their mission settling heavily on both of them. "Whatever happens next," he said, "we finish this." The alarm's wail echoed through the cavernous chamber, bouncing off the steel walls and sending cold shivers down Jax's spine. The flickering lights cast twisted shadows that danced like phantoms around them. Mara's fingers flew over the controls, trying to stabilize the system. "We've got seconds before the vault goes into lockdown. If that happens, we're trapped, or worse." Jax scanned the room, eyes flicking to the walls lined with dormant machinery. Pipes hissed and valves hissed, releasing bursts of steam that filled the air with choking mist. Somewhere deeper, Massive engines rumbled to life. Rex growled low, sensing the shift. His cybernetic eye glowed red now, scanning for threats. Suddenly, a deep voice, cold and mechanical, reverberated through the chamber. Intrusion detected. Security protocols initiated. All hostile entities will be neutralized. Jax exchanged a grim look with Mara. The Vault's AI had fully awakened, and it wasn't interested in negotiation. From hidden panels in the walls, sleek security drones unfolded, their armored frames humming with lethal energy. They swarmed forward with deadly precision. "Get ready," Mara shouted, diving for cover behind the console. Jax raised his rifle, firing bursts of suppressing fire as Rex leapt into the fray, teeth and claws ripping through metal and circuits. But the drones were too many, too fast, their targeting systems tracking every move. Mara shouted, "I'm hacking the system, need to override the lockdown now." Jax covered her, taking down drone after drone, the chamber filling with sparks and the stench of burning circuitry. Rex's mechanical eye flickered dangerously, but he kept fighting. Almost there. Mara gritted out. With a final surge of code, the alarm cut out abruptly, and the drones froze, powerless. The room went silent except for heavy breathing and the low hum of reactivated systems. Mara slumped against the console, exhausted but triumphant. Lockdown lifted. "We can access the mainframe." Jax stepped forward, eyes on the console as Mara opened the core files. Streams of data revealed the Vault's secret, a massive program designed not just to reboot infrastructure but to rewrite the very DNA of the surviving population, a genetic reset aimed to engineer a new, perfect humanity. Jax's stomach turned. They want to control evolution itself. Mara nodded grimly. If the wrong people get this, it could mean the end of free will, more control, more power, total domination. Rex whined softly, sensing the weight of their discovery. Jax clenched his fists. "We need to get this info back to the Enclave, warn them." Mara looked toward the shaft leading back to the surface. "But first, we have to make it out of here alive." The distant rumble resumed, louder and more urgent. "The Vault's defenses are still coming," Jax said. They gathered the data, preparing to face whatever awaited outside. As they stepped into the dim passageway, the bunker seemed to groan, alive and aware a sleeping giant stirred awake. The fight for the future was far from over. Chapter 5, Dawn of the New World. The ascent was brutal. Every step felt heavier, the weight of the Vault's secrets pressing down on Jax like the thick dust choking the ruined world outside. Above them, the sky was a smeared canvas of ash and muted sunlight, a reminder that the apocalypse had scarred the planet deeply, but hadn't yet claimed it entirely. Rex padded steadily beside Jax, his cybernetic eye scanning for danger, while Mara kept a cautious watch on their flanks. The distant echoes of faction soldiers still hunting them were a constant threat. Every shadow could hold a bullet, every gust of wind could carry an ambush. At the surface, the world was both familiar and alien. Ruined skyscrapers jutted like broken teeth, streets cracked and overgrown with mutated flora glowing faintly in the radioactive twilight. But there was movement too, distant lights, signs of life. The Enclave was out there, waiting. Jax pulled Mara aside as they crested a ridge overlooking the wasteland below. "We have the data, the truth about Project Prometheus, the genetic reset, the Ares control plans. This could change everything." Mara nodded, eyes fierce. "The Enclave needs to know. They need to decide if they want to rebuild or resist." Rex barked softly, as if urging them onward. Suddenly, from behind a shattered wall, figures emerged, the faction's remaining forces, determined and desperate. Mara raised her pulse rifle, Jax hefted his rifle. But before the battle could erupt, a deep, mechanical roar filled the air. From the shadows stepped a massive war machine, part relic, part nightmare, a hulking armored walker covered in scorched plates and flickering red sensors. The faction faltered, fear overtaking their resolve. Jax and Mara exchanged a glance. "Rex, now," Jax commanded. With a burst of speed and fury, Rex launched at the machine's exposed joints, his cybernetic enhancements giving him the edge. Mara and Jax fired coordinated blasts at the walkers' control nodes. The battle was fierce and chaotic, sparks flying as man, machine, and dog fought for survival. In the end, the war machine shuddered and collapsed, inert. The factions scattered, broken and leaderless. Breathing hard, Mara lowered her weapon. That was too close. Jax looked out over the horizon, where the Enclave's faint lights flickered like stars in the darkness. "We brought the truth back," he said softly. "Now it's up to them." Rex nuzzled Jax's hand, eyes steady and loyal. For the first time in a long while, Jax felt the weight in his chest lift, a fragile hope blossoming amid the ruins. The world was broken, scarred, but not beyond repair. Together, boy and dog, and the woman who'd become their ally, took their first steps toward a new dawn, one where humanity might rise from the ashes, not as masters of machines, but as survivors with freedom and choice. The end.